Aresse Imasuen. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's
Um,
good to it's good to have you.
thank you. Thank you. How
Yeah.
are you doing yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. How's fatherhood treating you?
Uh, let's say it's more stressful than I thought it was. So I'll put it this way: it's like when they tell you this is how something is going to be, and you
Uh-huh.
prepare your mind for it, and when it actually happens, it's not near what they told you. Even though they told you this is how it's going to be, but as you go through those stages, it's not what is not how you think you feel it. So
E- exactly. They were telling me, yeah, you won't get much sleep. We get it to change the diapers and things like that.
yeah,
But
I,
but I
I,
but I but I felt that with all those advices, when I was in the situation itself, when I was holding my daughter and things like that, and spending the first few days with her. I mean, it was quite different. Right? It was. I was not prepared for it. Let me just say that it was totally different.
yeah. Like I've done babysitting before. I've done babysitting for my cousins and some other family members' children, but
Hmm.
you only get to see them for a day or a week at most.
Yeah.
You don't see that whole beginning stages all the way to 1 year.
No.
And like changing the diapers, I feel it's okay for me, but
Mm.
why are you crying? Why?
Troubleshooting.
Yeah, I'm an
You get
engineer. I'm trying to
right.
troubleshoot, and I can't figure it out. I'm looking at him. He's crying. Then you have to hold him in a certain way, and so it's all challenging. Everything is new, and it's a beautiful thing, but also it can be stressful as well.
I know, but yeah, actually, I think that's the point. Looking at it from the holistic point of view, is that it's joyful. There's a lot of pride in it. Just looking into those eyes and having somebody
Yes,
depend on you. Those beautiful moments make all
yes,
the hard work less easy.
exactly. Yeah,
All
yeah,
right, RSA,
yeah.
if you don't mind, would you introduce yourself?
Okay, so my name is Aresse Imasuen. Originally from Nigeria. I am an engineer. I currently work with Tesla in Austin, Texas. Um, I would say my background has always been in electrical engineering. Troubleshooting has always been my thing every time since I was young, because my dad was an engineer. So I'm very close to my dad. So me and my dad, we kind of, when we were growing up, he was the one that took my homework and every other thing. So it was very refreshing to follow in his footsteps, right? To just figure out certain things because he was my, how will I say, role model on what I needed to be uh, when I grew up and when I get to this stage. Um, yeah, so that's basically me. Um, Maybe I would say I'm a fun, cheerful guy.
I know
Like,
that.
yeah, I like to joke around with people. At the same time, I try not to take things too serious. I try to have a good sense of humor. Um, life is hard already on itself, so why make it harder, right? So
True.
that's that's basically me in a nutshell.
True, true, true.
Yeah,
Thanks for that introduction. So,
yeah,
I want to paint a picture for you.
yes,
It was 2012, January, on a
yes,
cold winter day. It was
yes.
my second day in Windsor,
Oh, really?
and the admissions officer just showed me my room, and I got in. I looked at my bed; it was bare. I only had a suitcase with me, and of course, I didn't have any. bedding,
Yeah.
so or
Yeah.
anything like that. So I
Yeah.
had to set up my room. But at the same time, I was this Sierra Leonean in a new country. I don't know where to go. I don't know. I don't have anybody in Windsor that I could reach out to.
Yeah.
So I came out of my room, Clark residence, and I looked to my left. There was a door very adjacent to mine, and I knocked on the door, and somebody came out, and it was you,
Yeah.
and you showed me where to go. I think it was no, not Zellers at that time.
Yeah. Yes.
Told me
Yes.
to go
Yes.
to Zellers to get stuff. So
Yeah.
that's how we started talking, and
Yeah.
I had to say that during that first semester in Windsor, I mean, you helped me settle down.
Yeah.
But I was
It,
just, but, but I was just thinking, because I got there and you were already there, probably for a semester or so, right?
no, it wasn't too long. I think I was there for like I think a week before you came.
Okay,
Because yeah, because it's so funny the way you put it because my own story was a little different for me because I came into Canada literally on Boxing Day, 2011.
okay,
So I was fortunate to have my mom's friend be in Brampton, and she helped me navigate through Canada, like where to buy clothes and everything. All this was in Brampton. And I still appreciate all the stuff that she did for me, especially that first day. Like she had work that day and she still had to drive to Windsor, drop me off, go back home, and go resume her shift that night.
hmm hmm
But when she finally left and it was just me, the school hasn't started at that time because this was like the first week of January. This was just after the new year. I just needed to settle in as quickly as possible. So Clark Hall, that was where I was assigned to. No electricity. Everything was still off. Nothing was,
okay.
no heater, nothing. Windsor was like, I think, minus 10 degrees Celsius at that time.
Wow.
Oh my God. I got in. I was like, okay, it's so cold. Why is it so cold? I was trying to figure out how to put the heater on. So I put the heater on and I was waiting and I was still waiting because I thought the heater would like start
hmm
making me like at least make me sweat, right? Like the song. You understand what I mean?
I get what you mean.
Yes. Nothing. And I saw like an emergency heat and I flicked on the emergency heat and it was like da, 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 da. I'm like, okay. It's like something is burning. And I'm like, you know what? Every good when it's cold, just try and get a shower. And I
hmm
just went into the bath, the shower bath, and I didn't realize that you the cold water comes first before the hot water.
Yep.
And I was already in, fully nude. And I turned on the I
Turn on the
turned on
cold
the tap.
water.
Yo, I screamed so loud, like high pitched voice. But like so that first few days was like me just trying to figure out the building. What like I had to come out, just try to know my way around the environment. Walked all the way to the Ambassador Bridge at that time just to look at the scenery and everything. Came back and I was by myself. And by the time classes started, I think it was on the 4th. That was when I started getting like um, people coming into the room because if I think it was like a 5 bedroom, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was
So
four on top, one
yeah,
down.
one down. I forget his name, the Ghanaian guy that was downstairs, and
Yeah,
Shegun. Well,
Shegun.
Shagun, that was the other guy, and the Chinese guy. I can't really remember his name.
Exactly. Yeah, he always stays in his room. He never comes
He,
out.
he never comes out. So I remember that day. I think you were the last to show up.
Yep.
You were the last to show up, and I'd already made acquaintances with everyone at that time, and I thought that room was going to just be free until you showed up. And when you showed up, I was like, oh. And typical me, I always assume every black person is either Nigerian or Ghanaian.
Mm. So you thought I was
Then
Nigerian?
no, because like the first day on the fee, I was like, oh, this sounds like a Yoruba name. Like so, yeah. But when you told me it was from Sierra Leone, I was like, yes, like nice to meet you. And one thing with me is like some of my experiences where that I would say maybe go through alone, that I didn't really have anybody to help me out.
Hmm.
I try to not make people go through those same things, right? So,
Yeah.
and when you told me of your experience, how you landed, how you had to find your way to Windsor by yourself, got to
Hmm.
a hotel, then all those stuff. It to me, I really appreciate what my mom's friend did for me, but at
Hmm.
the same time, I always look at it as it's a tough moment. So everybody just needs a break or two. Just show them around. Um, and then you were starting your master's degree, so I
Hmm.
I didn't really know how that was going to be for you at that point in time because you had already missed like some classes and
Yeah, I think I missed a week of class.
yes,
Yeah.
missed a week of class. So that was nice. That was nice and refreshing having some African people because I thought I was going to have like white
Yeah.
guys.
I didn't know what I was gonna meet. You know. I I
And
didn't
this,
think
and
about it,
this,
and I
yeah,
just, I didn't think through a lot of what I was gonna meet and things like that. I just came and I was just dealing with things as they get thrown at my face. So
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. That's what we did too. Like
yeah.
it, I would say like sometimes like when you come to a new country, it could be very overwhelming. You get that culture shock, right?
Hmm.
Some people that you think will be on your corner are not really on your corner. Like like you don't have a lot of Sierra Leoneans at that time. Like
No,
the
I mean,
yeah,
in Windsor there was no Sierra Leonean that I could talk to or anything like that. I mean, it was you guys,
exactly.
right? It was
Yeah.
you two
So you had you
and the rest.
yeah, so you had to kind of be integrated into the Nigerian way of life. Like here our language, the way we say things in a certain way, pidgin and
Yeah,
things
good
like
thing though I could understand your pidgin. Otherwise, it would have been tough.
like Oteri's pidgin was is high tier. That's that's a part of Nigeria that I feel like those are the guys that invented pidgin English. Yeah, so I would say like you adjusted well at least for the first time by yourself, and it's not easy. Like
No,
leaving
no, it was not.
your country by yourself and trying to sort like navigate the ways of it's not used to Africa. Like I was never used to wearing like a shirt, then another
Mhm.
jacket, and another jacket, and another
Yeah,
jacket.
exactly. And that brings me to the question like how you coming from Nigeria because it's a different in a country, different environment compared to where I'm coming from. Like what was your first impressions of Windsor?
So in Nigeria, there's this so where I grew up is not really like the rich and lavish uh, lifestyle.
Hmm.
We were just like middle class families, and every middle class family, especially in Nigeria back then, everybody all experienced the same lifestyle, which was poor electricity. Like you had to source for your own water. You have to source for your own electricity. Most of the basic things that you feel that the government is supposed to help you with, you were your own government. So you, as the father, your federal, local, and state government all together.
Yeah.
You're providing for your children, taking care of your wife and your kids.
Hmm.
Everything is all you. And when my first impression coming to Canada in general was the weather. That was the first thing that I had to notice
Hmm.
because I've never experienced such cold in my life. Because the only cold that I've experienced is something inside the fridge or freezer,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking you can't get colder than this.
No.
Mind you, it's not like we have great electricity. So
Uh-huh.
every once in a while, I would say like my freezer is probably -2, but I don't know what -2 is at that point. So I'm thinking like the lowest you can ever go is like in Nigeria, probably like 22. Some states
Yeah.
go
On
below
a
than
cold
that.
rainy day.
Yeah. And that was the first culture shock that how can an environment be so cold like this? You see all this snow, you see how kids are playing in the snow, and you think it's just like, I don't know, like, but there's an intense cold
Yeah.
attached to it.
I think we saw most especially like growing up watching these movies and things like that. We saw the fairy tale side of it. We didn't see
Yeah,
the reality. So
yeah,
coming here and experiencing it for the first time, that's when it really hit us. Like so
yeah,
this is what it means.
yeah. Like this are what children are playing with, like ice, pure ice
Exactly.
that falls from the sky. And the second, this that was my first impression. My first impression was actually the weather. The second thing that probably shocked me was the roads, especially because like Ontario, Mississauga, Toronto, the
Hmm.
road network was so like I've never seen a road network like that. Like bridges over bridges and stuff
Hmm.
like that. Like
Yeah.
all the I'm probably like where I came from, between like maybe half a kilometer from one point to another point, there's always a pothole or something.
Yeah.
Roads were all smooth. Everyone was driving in their own lane. Everything felt very organized. And because I came during the winter time,
Hmm.
I thought like it was around 8 p.m., only to find out it was just 5 p.m.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It gets dark very early.
So because I came, stayed with my aunt. Like the sun was taking me around town, Brampton, and it got dark very quickly. So I told him like, oh, it looks like we need to start going home. It's like, oh, it's just 5 p.m.
Hmm.
And I looked at my watch then. I'm like, it's just 5 p.m. I'm like, it's so dark. It's like, yeah. So, and at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm in, I'm in a city that is going to be tough navigating through because first of all, it's so cold. How can you like have spend time outdoors in such a kind of environment? Secondly, was you always had to obey the traffic rules because
Oh yeah.
the roads are so good, so someone can actually run you over. So you just have to like be patient. You don't
Yeah.
just they call it jaywalking here, but you don't just walk on the road
Exactly.
anyhow.
Exactly. I
So
was amazed by how fast the cars were going.
yes, and it was just like I would say like from where I came from, which was Nigeria, it was just so like organized. Like again, like constant electricity, like all these things that showed up for me was like, why is it that these people like I put these people is not just, but why is it that they've been able to get it right and we're
Yeah.
still struggling? Like they have all the answers. if we say like all African countries are copying the US or Canada or some or the UK, like they already have the answers. Like what's stopping the country from actually getting to this level?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting, it was fascinating, like piqued my curiosity just to understand like what makes especially Canadians, like what makes Canadians Canadians and why the system is working for them in
Hmm.
to be fair. Like those are some of the things that I give them kudos. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I think when you come in, the first thing that you notice are the differences. You
Yes.
notice the differences between what you're experiencing and what was back home, and then you start processing how they got it right, and
Yes.
then you now have to figure out how do I fit in into
Yes.
this new society, right?
Yes. Like do I especially for me, I think it was another thing too that I had to um be will I say come to like I had to figure all these things out. Like, do I have to change my accent just so that the? But I'm surprised. Like the Canadians are, I would feel they're more liberal to immigrants than the U.S. That's
Okay.
what I would say because
That's a good observation from you because I don't know as much about the US, so it's good that you kind of like giving me that insight.
yeah. So I came to Texas 2022 in
Hmm.
November. That's when I started, and yeah, I stayed in Austin. Austin, Texas, is the capital of Texas,
Okay.
and I just noticed like there's a lot of Hispanics here, like people from Mexico. Like if someone told me that I was in Mexico, I would have probably believed them at this point. But when you talk there, like you don't get too many like with the Hispanic guys. Like obviously, it's like the culture is not so different from the African culture. There are some things that they celebrate do differently, but everything feels so sort of similar. But with the Texans, especially when it's like a very white Texas person, some of them are too like I don't know the word to use. I don't want to sound insulting, but they're so rigid in they're not diverse enough. Like yes, you have people who are going to be coming into the country one way or the other, but
Hmm.
like accents, like when you speak your Nigerian accent to
Hmm.
them, it's what are you saying? What are you saying? What did you say? What did you say?
Oh, okay, okay, I get that,
Yeah, but
and
I
that can be a little bit annoying.
yes, yes, it's annoying because again, too, like I would say in Canada it was a little bit different. Canada
Yeah,
was a little bit different.
yeah. I
Canada,
mean, like,
I think because of like the amount of immigrants that was coming in at that time, you had a lot
mhm,
of Indians, Chinese. You also had people who were from in the Middle East as well, and you had a lot of Africans or Caribbeans, Black
yeah,
Caribbean people as well. So it's a little like when I look at the comparison, like when you're interacting with people, like it's really really clear. That doesn't mean like you don't have the far and between people uh, who also understand the diverse nature and try to at least let themselves understand and learn. Right?
yeah,
It's it was interesting, but for Canada, to I started to appreciate the people more in terms of the relationship, especially when I decided to do my masters. Like after that program that I did, and I started doing my masters, like you find out like okay, you're not only the black guy in class, you're
yeah,
like other people with you, and it was also kind of interesting to know like You had a lot of Indians, you had a lot of uh,
Yeah.
Chinese, you had a
Yep.
lot of blacks, but very
Hmm.
few whites.
Very few in engineering for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, in engineering, very very few whites.
Yeah.
So that was uh, that was some of the experiences. Like probably if I go through it again, I'll probably do some things different. If I
Yeah, I know. I know. We always go look back and say, yeah, I could have done something differently. But I think you did great at Windsor for sure. You helped out. You helped me in particular. So I feel you did very well.
yeah,
Um,
thank
so
you.
I just want to move off from Windsor a bit and move into you starting work in
Oh
Canada.
yes, yeah.
Right. So I know you graduated, you were happy, family is happy, everybody's happy for you. Now you had the next challenge to get into the workforce, right? Uh, what was your experience getting into the workforce in Canada?
It was very challenging. I would say it was very challenging. Like you finished before me,
Yeah,
and I didn't know the extent of that challenge at that time, right? Like we were all excited, like, oh, Odofia's finished. I think if I'm not mistaken, did Abdul and
yeah. Abdul, Chito, I
yes,
think
everyone
Terry
finished.
Martins, we all
Yes.
finished around the same time, I think.
Oh my God, um it was really challenging by the time I finished. So the process I went through was like once I was done,
Hmm.
I said like every other person, you need to leave Windsor
Hmm.
and look for the next best thing. So I packed my bags and went back to Brampton to stay at my aunt's place for a while.
Yeah,
But obviously, like I used to talk to Chito, I used to talk to every other person, and everyone was saying like Alberta is like the engineering hub. Like you
yep.
need to get down to Alberta. Like, okay, you know what? So I packed my bags again and I went to Alberta. I first went to Calgary because that's where everyone was. And I believe Abdul, Chito, and
Hmm.
Mo, they all went together. Like they all had their own struggles, and they each had some jobs, good jobs that they were doing. I think Mo was working at Schneider at the time. Uh, Abdul for one small company, then Chito as well. But it was very like by the time I got to Calgary, like see these guys and you're like, oh, help me out, help me out, help me out. Here's my resume, here's my this. And it was really, really challenging because from their point of view, it's not that easy. Like once you're
Yeah.
in the system, it's not like you don't want to help people. It's just the opportunity is not presenting itself at the moment at that time. But from my perspective, it felt like nobody wanted to help me, right? So I had to like in Calgary, I had to start walking like to different places because I was staying with my aunt. My aunt was my mom's sister at that time was staying in Calgary, so I was kind of laying under her. The one of the advantages was like I wasn't paying rent unlike every other person, right? So,
Mhm.
but every other thing I had to take care of. So I just in the morning sometimes I wake up, go on my laptop, and I'm applying to at least 50 jobs.
It was like a job app-
Job like
application.
yes. And when you're applying for jobs so much like that, like there's some mistakes you make. So because like one great tool was that Microsoft had this function where you have like aliases, name aliases.
Hmm.
So your what do you call it? Like say like my email address at that time was like every other young person. You just put like something very not standard, not professional.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to change my alias name. So my new email under the alias was like my first name dot my last name at outlook.com.
Yeah.
My original email was Hotmail. So every time I think like I applied to like 6 jobs and I realized that I used my first name dot my last name at hotmail.com.
Oh.
So like little mistakes, like resumes that were supposed to be for like this particular part of engineering was like
Mm.
something else.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was so frustrating. And I started like trying. I wasn't really getting any interviews. Muna had already come to around the Calgary area at that time. So we started connecting, and she told me of some places that were like good to
Mm-hmm.
seek jobs, like Manpower and all those other places, recruitment great places. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember my first interview with one of these recruitment guys. The guy was like asking me, "Okay, so what's your experience?" I said, I just graduated, so I don't really
Uh-huh.
have too many experience." And he was asking questions based on, okay, have you done this? No. Have you done that? No. Uh, it
The
wa- he,
one, the one, the one 5 year experience
exactly. And I was just
and
looking
other
at
things.
him like, where do you want me to get all this experience from? I'm telling you, I just got out of school. And he was like, most of our employers are looking for like 2 years or 5 years
Mm.
experience. Maybe you can come next time.
Yeah.
So it
I mean
was yeah, it was
that was,
very,
that's the difficulty that a lot of or most of us faced getting into the workforce without any Canadian experience because that's very important for them. Canadian
exactly
experience.
Canadian experience. And
Yeah.
it it continued for like close to 8 months at that time. Like I had to find something. Like it's not like now, because the only reason I was kind of focusing on engineering, because first of all, according to the criteria for permanent residence or work permit at that time, was in Alberta, if you didn't school there, you needed to get like an engineering company to work in.
Hmm.
And it was tough to get that engineering job.
Yeah.
Like Chito, Abdul, they all risked it because you had 3 years to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So, and the question for me was, do I have to? I've almost wasted a year. I have
Mm.
2 years left, and I
Yeah.
still haven't found something. And I had to go back to Ontario because Ontario at least had the option for to give you a work like a permanent residence at even if you schooled there. So I had to go back to Ontario. So I went back to Ontario, went back to Brampton, tried with Brampton, nothing. And it just so happens like a friend of mine just told me there's a job that you can do that can be able to get you your PR, which was a call center job at that time with
Okay.
Sutherland.
Yeah. Oh, Sutherland. Sutherland.
Yes. So
Everybody goes through Sutherland.
everybody goes through Sutherland. So it was very ironic because I left Windsor to
Yeah.
go find all these jobs, and I had to come back to Windsor again just for like a minimum wage job. So it was, to me, I would say like it was very, very like disappointing on my part, right?
Yeah.
Like I struggled to make sure that I got all these grades in master's level. You get out there and you find out that it's not relevant at all. Like
Hmm.
if you don't have that Canadian experience, you won't be able to get a job.
True.
How do you get the Canadian experience? you need to get a job. So
Hmm.
like where the conflict is,
Yeah.
it was really 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 tough. It was really really tough. But
Okay.
I when I got to Sutherland, that was like a whole different conversation on how the work for force was like with Sutherland. But I was very fortunate that I had a friend. You
Okay.
probably know her, Nonya.
None yeah.
Yes, she
Uh,
was. She came in. I think it was your last year.
okay.
Probably it was like your last semester. Yeah,
I think I can remember at one point we all hanged out with a couple of Nigerian
yeah,
friends of
yeah,
yours.
yeah,
She could have been one of them. I'm not exactly sure, but
yeah. So she helped out because that was when I knew the power of what do you call it, networking.
hmm.
So she had done some internships with one of the companies that I ended up working with, and she she said like, "Oh, if you're looking for people, I know people that are looking for a job. Just go for the interview." And it was nothing serious, and but I really appreciated that because that moved me from the call center, because the call center is a call center for the Americans, the
Mhm.
states, and
I
they have
know
their own.
Sutherland.
They have their own issues when
I
it
think
comes to
I think if we want to talk about Sutherland, we'll do like 3 hours of
I'm telling
recording
you,
on Sutherland.
like there's
But
so many stories with
I
Sutherland.
know
Like,
all of us went through Sutherland.
yeah, funny enough, like there was just something funny. Like I worked at Sutherland so much that um, there was a day I was trying to, like, we are looking for a job. There's this career fair that all of us, like me, Tunde, uh, Solomon, everyone, we're all looking for jobs at that time. So we were done and we wanted to go home. So we needed a taxi. And I said, don't worry, I'll call the taxi. And I took the phone and I said, thank you for calling AT.
AT&T.
Said, Let's cab. I said, yeah, thank you for calling. She said, excuse me. I'm like, oh, sorry, I need a cab. I need a yeah. So that was, I was happy to have left that place because it's not like it was a bad job. I would recommend anyone that when they come to, and the thing is, not many people will appreciate Sutherland.
No, Sutherland
I
was a saving grace.
Yes, it was a saving grace, but I feel that also, like, for people who want to know how any workforce is,
Hmm.
and when I mean by that, like how to relate with people, how to de-escalate, like some of these things, like you kind of know the mentality of the country you're in at that point in time. Like, are they naturally rude? Are they naturally kind? If they're naturally rude, how do you talk to them that they're not going to be rude to you again? If they're kind, how do you make it be more friendly, more sociable, and the rest? Because at that time, I think by the time I went to my next job, that was really, really helpful for me. Because when someone is angry at something, like how do you de-escalate a situation to
Okay.
make it be more beneficial for you, right? So
Okay.
that was something I till this day I appreciate with Sutherland. It's not like I don't appreciate the pay. I don't appreciate every other thing, but at least that interaction with, like, how do Canadians work? How do you talk to a customer? How do you interact with certain people? So I feel like anyone who is coming to, like, he has never been in the service industry, like with customers directly, like, and you want to understand what these guys do, like that's a really great resource.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I think now that you put it this way, looking back, I have to say, yeah, not only was Sutherland a saving grace, but we also learned a lot from it. I didn't stay.
and
I didn't stay too long at Sutherland, but it was my first. experience within a Canadian organization, and I got to see how things are done, the
Mm,
expectation, and all of these things. But
yeah.
I say, in the interest of time, I
Yes.
want to fast forward you to your current position.
Okay.
Yeah, you are with Tesla.
Yes.
That is no easy feat.
It's not easy.
It's not easy feat, and I think being associated with the Tesla brand, everybody when you say Tesla, you say Elon Musk. When you say Elon Musk, the most well, you say one of the most intelligent person. You gotta give Elon Musk his credit.
Yes.
How does it feel working in such an organization and also being associated with the Tesla brand?
Okay. So how do I feel working here? Fast paced.
Hmm.
It's not your traditional company. It's fast paced. Everything is like if we have a new design on Monday, and
Yeah.
if he says that we want it done by Friday, we have to get it done by Friday.
Hmm.
Even if it has to be like everyone has to put their heads together to make sure that this works out. So
Yeah.
it's not your traditional company. It's not like the company where like most traditional companies, you hold meetings to get ideas, and this this managerial level signs off, then the next managerial level signs off, then the next level. So by the time you even start the project, it takes you more time. But
Hmm.
Tesla is very fast paced. It's and associating myself with the Tesla brand is, I will say, um, it's good. It's positive. Like
Yeah.
because yes, I see the things that he's doing, and they're actually commendable. Like you can't get to where you are without these kind of work ethics, with this kind of ideas, because they always say like your idea starts with a dream. You dream about your idea, but the
Sure.
challenge is now making it into a reality. And that's the thing with Tesla, because this is Giga Texas, the building is huge.
Hmm.
So all that money, all those resources going into making sure that we have like these cars that we're driving. You understand? Like so there's a there's a there's a how will I say, like there's a conscious effort behind the idea. But man, I will say that it's a lot of hours, a lot of fast pace. Like
Hmm.
when I first came here, like I didn't even it wasn't even up to 2 days. Like I got my laptop, got everything, and right to work.
Wow.
Straight up.
No, no
Some companies,
onboarding. No onboarding.
no, some companies they give you like 1 month to familiarize
Right.
yourself with everything.
Hmm.
But there was something that needed attention,
Wow.
and they hired me for the job, and that's what they're paying me to do. So you better just go there and make sure this thing is working. So it's a challenge. So anyone who's potentially thinking of coming to Tesla should prepare their mind that
Hmm.
according to, you probably heard from Elon, like you have to have value. Like you can't just come in and just think you're not doing anything. You have to have value, right? So that's a good thing with Tesla. Anyone that works at Tesla and goes to any other place, I'm telling you, like they'll feel very relaxed. Like they'll feel
Okay.
so relaxed working in other places, because Tesla tries to draw out that potential in you. So they
Okay.
make you work hard, work smart, make you try and figure things out. There's always problems. You have to find a solution to those problems.
Okay.
If you can't find solution to those problems, that's why you have a great team. Like if you're working with a great team, like everyone is going to put their heads together to find that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, question I want to ask you is like, I know you have a previous experience, but with the Tesla experience, you feel like you're being challenged. You're feeling that your skills are you're perfecting your skill or you're honing your skill in a way. Like how does your experience with Tesla stands out?
Okay, so I would say like I had some like you said, like I had some previous experience before I came to Tesla. But I find that so with Tesla, Tesla is tries to do everything automation wise.
Hmm.
Like cars and they try to do it automation wise. And as an engineer, especially an automation engineer, you there are things that you know, but there's Tesla is doing it a little bit different. Sometimes
Okay.
it could be more complex, right? That you've never really experienced. So
Okay.
now how do you leverage your experience? Like you don't have any experience with that, but now you have some work experience on how you have to navigate through all those things. So it's a constant perfection of skills because they have different technologies that they're using in order to make sure like they try and do it the right way and try and perfect it. Um, some are simple, some are probably simple, but most of them are a little bit complex
Okay.
because you've not really seen uh, most of all these technologies. Like some of the cars, they do their own self test while in
Ours
the
does
assembly.
the cars
Yeah,
does its own self-test?
yes, while in the assembly line. So
Ooh.
how do you understand? Like, how does that work?
Yeah.
Like sometimes like once certain things are done, and you go to the once you go to the next process in the assembly line, the car just will do its self brake test, like just to see. Like it's amazing. Like
Wow.
when you
Wow.
see it, like you're like now some people will say like how does the car like is the car does it have AI or there's no AI in the car yet. Maybe if the car has AI, maybe that's a little bit different. But
Uh-huh.
it's just going through because there are technologies that talk to the car and the car talks back.
Hmm.
So those handshake, like at least from an IT perspective, like
Yeah,
you send a ping and you get a response. So
exactly.
then then you send the command, then the car does what it needs to do. But
Okay.
most of everything is more of self tests and diagnostics and stuff.
Stuff.
And I think that's cool. I've never seen something done like that before. So one like you want to try and find out like how did they do this? How did you get to this level that a car is doing its own
And
self?
all these things. Yeah,
Just
I think yeah, working with at the say like cutting edge technology, working with edge technology, I guess that kind of gives you it gives you that motivation. It gives you
yeah. Because
that.
when you see the car on the road, like you don't know how much like system technology has gone through that process for the car to be what it is.
Yeah,
And yeah, you can always criticize the system if it's not doing well, but that's the whole point of improving, right?
true.
So when you're improving, when you have a product and you always have to improve. So it it may look simple outside with the simple design and the simple interior, but everything under the battery or under the hood
Yeah.
is very, very, very complex.
Well, that's good. That's good. I guess it's good to have an insight into what how things happen in Tesla.
Yeah.
That's good. It's a good insight. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said just one final question, and then we'll go to the fun questions. So
Okay.
final question. I know, looking back at your journey in Canada, went from starting from Windsor to Canada and start working in Canada and all the way to to Tesla. My question is that what is your motivation behind all of this? Your journey.
I I will probably say like this is probably a lame this thing, but I'll probably say African. Like the the idea of an African, especially in Africa,
Hmm.
we are like wired to survive because of
True.
our environment. We
True.
don't have it the way like the North Americans or the Europeans have it. Like
Yeah.
where everything is kind of done for them. Like I said in the beginning, you're in Nigeria, you're your own government, right? You take care of everything that belongs to you because you feel that the government can't take care of everything that belongs to you. So you're pre-wired to always try and be the best, have the good things. The main thing is having the good things so that you can take care of your loved ones. But at the same time, you also want to be better than your parents or people that you know. Now, some people might call it too competitive when you're trying to um, maybe when you're trying to compete with your friends, like in school those days, like, oh, what did you score?
Yeah.
95.
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
scored 96. The guy that scored 95 is feeling down
Yeah.
because he scored 95. So he's going back
Uh-huh.
to the professor to get two more points so that he can be
Uh-huh.
the first. So, so I would say, like, for me, like, when I first came to Canada, it was the mindset that I needed to be successful so that I can take care of my parents.
Yeah.
And it's been just an interesting journey, especially in engineering, because the engineering back home and the engineering here is totally different. Even though it should be the same, because science is the same everywhere, but the way they do things is different. So, and that has piqued my interest. So every single time I want to learn something new, I want to have, I go out of my way so that I can learn something new. And that was part of the reason I was even able to come into Tesla because you've, when you do the interviews, like, and you talk to some of these managers or senior managers, like, they enjoy that kind of thing. So this is just more of a product of, will I say, a habit or maybe a self uh, reflection of where I came from, which is Nigeria. Like the
Yeah.
ability to survive and succeed, and that has, by the grace of God, has been keeping me uh, on this path. And I thank God for those qualities in me because when you don't have that drive, or if you don't have, some people will say it's a background, but sometimes you have to be very conscious. You have to tell yourself, like, who are you doing this for? Are you doing this for you, or are you doing this for your loved ones? If you're
Yeah.
doing this for you can pause at some point. You can say, I'm tired, like, I can always get back to it later. But when you do it for your family, especially now that I have a son,
Hmm.
my dad will always say, like, if your son is hungry, you cannot tell your son, hold on, I'm tired. You have to go out there and provide because that's what you're supposed to do. So I think, like, that journey from Windsor up to now has just been the African nature of to succeed and survive. That's the way I'll see it.
Wow. Well said. Well said, I say.
Yeah,
Well said. I can relate to some of it because I'm also from Africa and from Sierra Leone, so
yeah,
had similar experiences. But you putting it in this way.
yeah,
Well said.
yeah,
All right, I will say.
yeah.
Let's go to the rapid questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rapid
So
questions.
for each answer, you have a second. A second
Ah,
to answer.
just 1 second. Ah, okay.
1 second.
Ah, okay.
Whatever comes in your mind,
Okay.
just spit it out. Just
Is
say it.
it yes or no or just
Oh no, you have to give something. You have to give a word or something.
okay? All right.
If 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 it's a good answer, I'll go to the next question. If it's not a good answer or it's an answer that I don't understand, I'll ask you why.
Okay.
Sounds good?
It sounds good. Let's go.
All right. Who is your goat?
My dad,
Ah, nice. Who's your favorite Nigerian artist?
whiskey.
Whiskey. In your own opinion, who is the king of Afrobeat?
This is more than a second. King of Afrobeats. I'll still say it's fella. I'll still say it's fella.
Ella?
Yes.
Why? Why?
Because the genre now, the Afrobeat genre now is, or whether you call it Afrobeat or Afrobeats, they try and make it dissimilar, but it's sort of the same. The thing is, fella made it new.
Okay.
Every other person under him has kind of modified it to a certain extent. So until someone brings something fresh,
Okay.
then I can start comparing. But for now, I still think it's fella.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next question. In your own words, give me in your own 3 words, describe what the world would look like without Afrobeats.
Oh, that's easy. To be dull. First word, dull. No flavor.
No
If
flavor.
that no flavor and depressing. Depressing. It will be depressing.
Depressing.
Yes.
Flavorless, dull, depressing.
Yes. No like Afro like have you listened to every other genre of music?
Uh-huh.
Like you have artists, Beyonce, you have Rihanna, like you have all these people like dancing to the rhythm of like people have started using Afrobeat in movies now.
Yep.
And people are now seeing like, no, like this sounds very authentic, right? It's
Yeah.
not like I'm not taking away from the hip hop culture and all those are all new that I would say or jazz or blues and all that stuff. But when even like the calypso, all those stuff, like or the Jamaican rhythm, like
Mhm.
there is that rhythm that makes everybody just happy. It's
Yeah.
like it's like you're smoking weed, but without smoking weed.
Anyway.
Be- like I will confess, like in the past, I never used to listen to Afro beats, but
Okay.
when I came to Canada, and again, my favorite is whiskey. So there are some songs that, especially there's this song that I heard. Everybody has probably heard it, which is Ojo Elegba.
Yeah. 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 I know Olu Elijah. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So when I first heard it, it was like the rhythm, the beat, it was slow at the same time danceable. Then Drake went came on the song,
Mm-hmm.
and it was popularized. Then I started listening to Davido. Davido had his own stuff. Then Burner Boy, like okay, like there's something that
Something's
I've been
happening here.
missing. Something I've been missing for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's not everything that I like, but most of it I love.
Yeah.
Most
I
I
mean,
love.
you took more than 2 minutes to answer this question. But I have to agree with you. Afrobeat has put Africa to the world.
Yeah,
It's one of the positive things, and it's good because it's making other people understand us, making other people understand that we have something we can offer to the world. We have
yeah,
something original and authentic we can offer to the world, right? So
yeah,
that is changing the perceptives and perceptions of a lot of people on who and what Africans are. So I think it's great. I think it's great. All right, next question. Um, best spot to hang out in Austin.
Oh, yes, but most of Austin's places are breweries. Oh,
Oh yeah,
yeah, just breweries. Like, there's no really one spot. It's like the culture here is so different from Canada.
a lot of
It's
alcohol going on.
yeah, that's it's, I say I'm disappointed, but maybe I'm yet to see the full city. But yeah, it's just breweries. Like, there's no
Okay,
really like a favorite hangout.
okay. All right, best thing about fatherhood.
I think seeing him every day. That's the best thing. Coming home to see him every day.
Okay,
That's the best.
yeah, just holding,
Holding, yeah,
spending time,
spending
and
time.
all of those things. Yeah,
Yeah,
I can relate to that. I can relate with that.
I don't let my wife watch this podcast. But
don't don't tell her that you just did a podcast.
yeah, yeah. My son like is my joy. Like the fact that I look at him every day and I hold him. Like, it's wonderful.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Like I say. Anyways, we are at the 1 hour mark, and I know you gotta do your thing. I just wanna, I just wanna say I appreciate you as a friend. You have great mentality, great principles. Your idea and where you look at life, it's I admire personally, and it was a pleasure having you here with me for you to share your thoughts, your ideas, and how you go about doing things. I appreciate a lot.
Thank you for having me again. I also appreciate you. Like, you may not know all the times you were in Windsor. Like, at least when it came to some of the advice that you had in navigating through the master's program, that really helped me a lot. And take it or leave it, like, you were actually among the first guys to actually get a job amongst everybody that left. So it was something to look forward to, and the fact that you did it didn't make me give up at some point, yeah, in my own job search journey. So
Well,
I
I'm
appreciate you.
I'm glad we were both an inspiration to each other, and I think that's what I was. I think this journey that I'm on, with this podcast, I'm starting to realize that my friends were a motivation to me. Right, just
Yeah,
hanging out, talking with them, sharing opinions, sharing ideas.
yeah,
Sometimes we fail to forget. We always kind of look within and like, oh, you know what? I studied hard. I did this. I did that. I did all of these things. Maybe mostly by myself, but we forget that sometimes our motivations also come from external, from our friends, from the
yeah.
circles that we're in. And I think that's what I'm slowly realizing as I continue on this, podcast. But anyways, like I said, this was great. This was good. I know we'll continue talking again anyways after this.
Yeah, no
Uh,
problem, no problem.
anyways, I wish you a good day.
Yes, thank you once again, and wish you success in all your endeavors.